I'm going to click on the holders tab, and it looks like BlackRock. I love BlackRock. They are a great company to own stock in, and they have an ownership interest in a lot of companies. They're one of those companies that buy companies, and they tend to make a profit when they do it. So I'm looking at it, and it looks like, the largest holders from institutions would be BlackRock, Vanguard, Morgan Stanley. I'm not seeing any other names that I really recognize at the top, so I'm just going to stop. But of course, you have Goldman Sachs, you have State Street's involved, and then you look at the top mutual funds who hold it, and of course, number 2 is iShares Core S&P Small Cap ETF. So this is a small cap stock, and then Vanguard Small Cap Index also owns this. The Russell 2000. This is part of the Russell 2000 Index from Russell iShares. Fidelity is the number 1 institutional mutual fund holder of this stock. And all of this is good information, because when you invest in a stock, you want to know who else is buying it, who else is selling it. And personally, I don't care if anybody is buying or selling it as a person. I'm more interested in these hedge funds and these investment banks and companies like that who buy millions of shares at a time, because if one of these companies decide to dump this stock, or if one of these companies decide that it's not a good company to invest in, the stock can go down dramatically. If they reduce, you own 1% of a share of this company, that's actually a huge 1% of a billion. If you dump 1% of a billion shares on a stock market, that can be huge. That would probably tank this stock, because it's not that much buying or selling in there. But also, if you're looking at like BlackRock, which owns a huge amount, if they were to buy more, then you really got to keep an eye on what BlackRock, the company, is doing, because as an investor, they have votes. They can vote themselves on the board. They can really put pressure on a corporation to change its ways in a good or a bad way. So you always want to know who else owns the stock with you. And I don't care about no influencer. I don't care about your cousin Vinny or any of that. I want to know what companies own it, and I really don't care anybody else's opinion on this stock. I think it's a good stock to invest in for the next 10 years. I think that it's going to go down over the short term. I think it's going to go down over the medium term. But if you have a long investment horizon, like me, I might actually buy me a share of this at 26 and wait until it goes to $50 to sell, and that'll be a quick way to double my money. And when you're in the stock market, doubling your money is always good. The only time doubling your money isn't good if everybody else tripled their money. And that's the one thing you got to be aware of when you're investing in a stock. If everybody else is tripling their money, if the S&P 500 goes up threefold and you only double your money, and you fall behind, you lacking. You can't do that. You need to keep up with the market. And I'm not saying that as a competition, but what I'm saying is the reason why we invest, it's not to just own a company. It's not just to be a part of it. That's part of the reason why we invest. But the main reason why we invest, the main reason why we risk our money on these companies is because we're trying to build wealth. We're trying to grow our nest egg. We're trying to grow our money. And you don't grow your money by lagging behind the market. It's better than losing money, but technically, if the market outperforms you, you might as well just put your money in the S&P 500 index fund, and you would have had better results than whatever you were doing. So you want to make sure that if the market goes up 3x, that you are diversified enough, or that you own a couple of index funds so that you can catch some of that gain, because you don't want to be the guy who doubled his money when everybody else tripled their money, and that's just what investing is about. A lot of people who invest, they say I earned money, but when you look at their performance, your performance doesn't tell me that you earned money. And I think it's very important for your performance to really tell me that you're a good investor. And the only way you can do that is by keeping up or beating the average. And it's hard. It's difficult. A lot of people do it by accident, but it's very hard to do it repetitively, and it's very hard to do it on purpose. And that's why I am such a big fan of index funds like VU, which gives you the same performance or about the same performance as the S&P 500. And the only bad thing is that when the market goes down, if you have the same performance as the market, then you have that same down performance as well. But over time, if Bed Bath & Beyond gets into trouble, they might go out of business, and you might lose your money on your investment. The S&P 500, it drops down, but it almost always come up, even if they have to switch the companies out of it, even if they have to drop a company or two. The collection of those 500 companies, they have a winning record historically. And that winning record isn't the same for any company. I don't think there are too many companies that have been around as long as the S&P 500. And if there aren't many that have the same or a better winning record. And you can research it. You can prove me wrong. I encourage you, because you saved me some research. But it's really hard to beat the index, and that's all these financial advisors, all these mutual funds really ever try and do. And on a stock like Bed Bath & Beyond, you might possibly be able to beat the index if you buy it while it's down and it doubles, and the stock market, performs poorly. But that's just a risk you take when you buy an individual stock. Any individual stock, you take that same risk. So I always encourage people to make sure that they have an S&P 500 or a Dow Jones 30, a NASDAQ, or a Russell 2000 index amongst their stock holdings, because at the very least, you can win with the market instead of trying to beat the market. You can still own stocks where you pick and choose your favorites. And if those perform well, you'll outperform the market because you have the market and some. And if those do well, you'll slightly underperform the market. But like I said, you don't want to be the guy who doubled his money when everybody else tripled their money. It's just not a good look. I mean, it's better than losing, but technically you lost on the upside. You risk underperforming the market, and you underperformed the market. So now you technically have lost potential earnings or potential revenue that you could have got from just investing in the index.